finance, a la Shmoop. What are general obligation, revenue, and double-barreled bonds? Well, they're all flavors of muni bonds, and they refer to how the promise to pay is backed up by the city issuing the bonds, to raise money. Ever been to a town hall meeting? Well, they usually have lots of retired people attending, lousy coffee, a lot of blue hair rinses and dentures, or something like that. And yet municipalities are the backbone infrastructure of our country. They build parks and buildings and sewers and garbage collection systems and so on. In other words, the things that make us go, or, deal with us after we go. Boiling it down, there are really only two flavors of muni bonds. General obligation bonds, these things, a municipal bond where interest payments and principal repayment are backed by the full faith and credit of the issuing municipality, and revenue bonds. Municipal bond that pledges the revenue for the amount borrowed. That. All right, well, the state or local issuer assures repayment through full faith and credit, but there's a huge difference between these two types of bonds. So let's think about how this works on a national level with treasuries. Full faith and credit means that the U.S. government unconditionally promises to pay all interest and principal, even if it has to run the presses 24/7 to print enough money to do so. So that's at the federal level for treasuries like T-bonds, T-bills, T-notes, that kind of stuff. Municipalities work different though because they're just local. They can't print money. Like, do you have any Los Angeles dollars handy with you? Yeah, well, they'll make a nice fire someday. Okay, so think about munis as a little bit different here. All right, so let's think about general obligation bonds. These are general obligations of the city to pay interest and principal from taxes that the issuer can levy on its citizens. That's its local taxes on its local citizens. And they get a piece of income tax, property tax, sales tax, sin tax, cigarettes and booze. If there's a way to extract a tithe, a municipality, well, they actually might try it. Breathing tax? What do you think? Well, the full faith and credit is the issuer's unconditional promise to pay the interest and the principal unless, they can't generate enough tax revenue to do so or even go bankrupt. And in fact, that bizarro land phenomenon is starting to happen more and more as cities go bankrupt all over the country, or at least they're starting to. Anyway, since general obligation bonds are backed by the full faith and credit of the city, those responsible for the full faith in such credit must approve their issuance. And who might those be? Well, the citizens of the locality that's issuing them. That would be you people. You live there. You have to approve the issuance of a general obligation bond because it affects you. Okay, so that means your whole city sits behind a general obligation. In a revenue bond, things are different. Revenue bonds are more risky because they're backed up only by the revenues of a given project, right? They don't offer full faith and credit comfort. Payment on these bonds comes only from the revenue generated from what the bonds were used to create. Bonds to build a toll bridge are a good example here. The issuer can estimate fairly accurately the revenue that'll be generated from the tolls, based on how much traffic and $5 every time you drive across the bridge. And then it's up to the investor to decide if that revenue will be sufficient to service the debt on the bond. Okay, got that? So that's a revenue bond, riskier than a general obligation bond because it's backed up by only one thing. If the bridge fails, well, you're out of luck. Okay, moving on. A hybrid mutt formed from both of these concepts is a double-barreled bond, which is backed by both taxes and revenues. Think of a county beach that charges admission. Got it? So it's going to have general obligation of the coastline, everything around it, but generally speaking, paying back the interest is supposed to come from charging you that $20 it takes to park there all day, and you come back to a hot car that burns your, well, never mind. All right, so quite a trio here. General obligation bonds, pretty safe, backed by the whole city. Revenue bonds, backed by one thing, like that toll bridge. Double-barreled bonds that are kind of backed by both. Yeah, so they're quite a trio. But if they're the Destiny's Child of muni bonds, well, which one is Queen Bee?